Sushant. How are you doing today?
Good morning, very well.
So, folks, in our last episode, we started with the basics of cancer and we covered the facts that how cancer occurs, what are the major causes behind the occurrence of cancer. And today's discussion will be around the basics again. And here we will be covering that what is the difference between tumor cells and normal cells. So, Sushant, please shed some light on this fact in a very layman's language.
Sure. Let's start with basics. We survive because of energy, right? And energy is everything. So the basic job of every cell inside our body is to produce energy, right? And we all have, I think this is very simple. We all know that we have an organelle living inside our cell in the cytoplasm, what we call is mitochondria, right? Though mitochondria is an ancient organelle, it plays a key role in producing energy, right? And how it does is by aerobic respiration process. So we all respire, right? We all breathe, right? Respiration is the key for energy generation, right? So normal cells basically they in the presence of oxygen by a process called as oxidative phosphorylation, right? It produces energy and releases CO2 and water. So moisture which we release every time we breathe is water. So that's a basic of aerobic respiration process, and that's how we convert a lot of different macronutrients such as carbs and fats, right? Glucose and everything into energy, right? Which is again, there's a cellular process is energy is, your cell release energy and then we do a lot of tasks. We need that energy, right? That's a normal way how normal cell works, right? In case of cancer cells, so cancer cells are something which they are not efficient to use oxygen, or they don't use oxygen efficiently to produce energy. Rather, they resort to the ancient fermentation pathways. So if you recall, 2.5 billion years ago, right, there was very less oxygen in the environment, and all the organisms used to live by the way of fermentation, right? So that's a basic cancer cell. Uh, you know, generate energy using fermentation. They ferment fuels such as glucose and glutamine. So there's a very, when it comes to cancer cells, they have a very limited source of fuel, right? And without those fuel, they cannot survive, right? So essentially, the basic difference between cancer cells and normal cells is the way they generate energy, right? So normal cells use aerobic respiration, uses oxygen to generate energy, right? Tumor cells generally can survive in hypoxic environment. They can survive in low oxygen environment. That's why they use the fermentation model to generate energy, and that's how they grow, right? So that's how they grow and proliferate, right? So essentially, if you do not feed them with these fuels, right, they would not be able to survive. So that's one of the strategies to manage cancer, so as to speak, right? So that's a basic difference to understand. And again, it's a wrong saying that we have cancer cells in our body, right? So our cells always turns over, right? So dead cell or sick cells are replaced by the new cells. That's a normal process, right? So in case if you have cancer cells, probably they are not turned over. They're so most of the in a normal process, even if they are cancer cell, if they are, people say, right, it can be easily destroyed, it can be easily turned over, right? But if it's not turned over, so that's why you have these things. So they can be benign tumor cells, or there'll be some polyps, right, because of inflammation. But it's you cannot say that you have cancer cells. So that's a basic of what is the difference between cancer cells and tumor cells. Yeah.
So I think that's pretty interestingly that you've covered this subject. So I think with this discussion, this topic that you have covered, we have come to the end of this discussion. Would you like to add any more points here?
You have to see that is one of the reasons that obesity and type 2 diabetes are correlated with the onset of most of the cancer because glucose is the primary fuel. So some tumor cells grow on glucose, some grow on glutamine, some grow on both, right? So essentially that's a basic people should understand. Again, saying that it's not a genetic disease, right? It's not a genetic disease. It's an outcome of damaged respiration or mitochondrial dysfunction, right? So that's it. So that's what I wanted to share today. Probably next episode post the Shara, we would talk about metastatic cancer. So how does cancer grow? How does it spread to different body organs? What is the mechanism and the molecular uh, activities which happens, which causes metastatic cancer to grow and cancer cells to grow and proliferate. Yeah.
Thank you, Sushant. That was a very interesting points that you have made over this subject. And thank you, folks, for listening to our podcast. We will be back with another episode soon. Thank you.
Thank you.